Hello and welcome to the Rabid Atheist. I'm Ed Raby, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. Feel free to like or dislike the video as you see fit, so feel free to hit those buttons. Feel free to comment below, and I would appreciate it if you'd subscribe to the channel and hit your notification bell for more content as it is released. You're also free to share my videos as much as you like, because the purpose of this channel is educational in regards to atheist and deconversion issues and any issues related to those issues. A hearty shout out to the Rabid Nation. Join the nation by hitting that subscribe button. And if you want to support the channel in a more tangible way, hit the join button, and your membership options for citizenship in the Rabid Nation will be presented to you. Today is Friday, and I normally get up on my soapbox and deal with an issue, and sometimes I deal with comments, sometimes I don't. Today is one of those days that I'm kind of dealing with comments, but I'm also on my soapbox at the same time. And I want to talk about some disturbing trends, disturbing aspects, I guess it would be a better word, to current modern apologetics. And I want to kind of set the stage, because I watch a lot of other atheist YouTubers as they react to things, because, sometimes it inspires me to react to the same video, because I have a different spin on it. Or sometimes I'm just looking to see what everybody else is doing. And, I hear, people, Christians and theists and other people suggest to me various, apologetic sites. Well, you need to go here and you'll probably have the answers to your questions. And then they suggest somebody that I've already either read their book or listened to what they had to say already. So I keep tabs on the sphere. And this week I've been watching some YouTubers, atheist YouTubers, and I was watching Rationality Rules. And right now he's got this little mini series on Casually Debunked. I don't even know if he's finished it at the time I'm recording this video, but he's dealing with William Lane Craig and Cameron on Capturing Christianity as they're dealing with Carl Sagan's response to the question, basically, do you believe in God? And what Rationality Rules is, saying is that look at how they're framing emotionally and intuitively this idea, because Cameron uses the word cringy about Carl Sagan, and then they're, shaking their, well, I don't really understand this part. And, it's like what they're attacking is the fact that Carl Sagan's morality, nobody ever questioned. I don't remember it being questioned. And he's considered one of the great communicators of science in the past. And what they're trying to do is undermine that emotionally with their audience. And so I'm watching this go on, and I'm literally agreeing with Rationality Rules on this one, because he's like, they're framing it. They're trying to frame it. And I found it very kind of off-putting, because we're talking William Lane Craig, the guy who's already said that we should lower the epistemological bar. By the way, that never gets old, and it still makes me smile a little bit. But we're dealing with a couple of guys here that are apologists who are basically, instead of dealing with what Carl Sagan is saying, they have to play this poison the well game. Okay? I'm getting on my soapbox here, and it's a little bit of a rant, but it's like, why can't you just deal with what Carl Sagan is saying? Why do we always have to add these offhanded, snide little remarks about his ability to communicate? And, when I heard, I don't really understand what he's getting at with this, from both Cameron and William Lane Craig, I'm like, William Lane Craig, you better throw it. If you got any degrees in philosophy, you need to turn them back in. Because I don't think Carl Sagan is being all that hard to understand in this video. In fact, he's being very clear. And if you can't understand it, that's not a problem with him. That's a problem with you. Okay, but that's the thing. Another thing that's disturbing here is they don't have enough self-awareness that maybe that they don't completely understand it, and they need to go deep dive it a little bit better until they do. Okay, they don't do that. They just kind of dismiss it, have these smiling faces, and it really is framing the argument in such a way that you already have a negative connotation emotionally about Carl Sagan. And I've seen theists do this for years with Carl Sagan, is, that they frame him emotionally negatively. Well, he doesn't believe in God, or whatever. And so any person who believes, who goes and watches Carl Sagan, already has the well poisoned in their head about, what kind of person he was and whether or not he was a good communicator. Oh, he's belaboring a point. It's a very simple point and he takes way too long to it. No, he's a good communicator who doesn't assume that his audience understands everything he understands. So I'm watching that. Then I saw a video this week of Prophet of Zod dealing with inspiring philosophy. And inspiring philosophy is trying to answer the question, why would God sacrifice himself to himself? The whole ridiculous rational reason of how salvation works in Christianity. And he's trying to deal with that. And he actually, the funny part about it was inspiring philosophy starts out really good in his video about, saying what the problem is, but then he jumps the shark, okay, because he kind of just switches to, yeah, but it doesn't make sense because it's beyond rationality, and then he gives all these reasons of why it goes beyond rationality. So you're basically admitting that the gospel isn't rational, so therefore it's probably from God? And think about that. We've got William Lane Craig and Cameron kind of being snarky about Carl Sagan. We have inspiring philosophy basically jumping the shark at this point. And Prophet of Zod is being more than patient with this. But it's like you're literally avoiding the question. You're sidestepping the question with the rationality of, because it's God, it's not going to make sense to us. You're hiding behind it. It goes back to the whole, Paul's defense of the gospel. To the Jews it's a stumbling block, and to the Greeks it's foolishness. Okay, and what he's basically saying and what he's doing is he's preparing the believer to insulate themselves against any criticism. And he's doing it by appealing to their ego. The one thing that is very clear to me about theists these days is how much religion and faith appeals to the ego. Oh, I'm a humble believer. No, you're not a humble believer. You believe that you're talking to God and God cares about you and God has specially done some stuff for you. That's not humility. That's, you got a special connection that nobody else has. Okay, and I realized I was talking that way and tried to tone my language down, but apparently apologists aren't going to do that. And the fact that supposedly this great apologetics channel that I get called about, inspiring philosophy all the time, decides to say, yeah, well, we're just going to appeal to your intuition. We're not going to go philosophy. We're just going to go an emotional appeal. I always hear about, when I first started this channel, people would tell me, go to inspiring philosophy, go to inspiring philosophy. He has answers for this question. And I would. And I'm like, it's not a good answer to the question. I've already heard it before. Now I'm like going, this guy's kind of jumped the shark. He's kind of said intuition's all that matters when it comes to accepting the gospel. And I was watching another video by TMM. He's reacting to a kid. I've seen a lot of people react to this kid, where this kid is basically saying atheists are frauds. And one of the things that got me in his video, the kid's video, and I'll link all this stuff in the description, but what I got about this was he literally says, he literally realizes there's an objection because he starts quoting the Bible and says, I know I'm defending the Bible, but I'm justified in that because when you look into the Bible, you see the truth of it. Another appeal to intuition, that somehow truth is attained by intuition. And I'm like, no, you can't do that, kid. Okay, you can't do it. You cannot appeal to proving the Bible with the Bible. Okay, the Bible has to have external things of evidence. And boy, my video this week on my 3 standards of evidence at the beginning of the week on Monday, the typical theist response was, these are weak arguments. I'm not making flippant arguments. I'm laying out standards of evidence that literally the world uses, not atheists, not anybody else, but the world uses. Science, testimonial evidence, and forensics. Somebody thank you, give me for the word forensics, thank you. And moving on to what is accepted in a court of law as evidence. These things convict people and send them to prison, or they acquit people. That's how much we believe in them as standards of evidence. And these are weak arguments. I'm not making an argument. I'm laying out standards of evidence. And this is the kind of thing that you as theists have been taught to do by these other people. You've been taught to have an emotional reaction to what an atheist says. I mean, between the moral argument saying, oh, well, you can't have morality without God, even though there's hundreds of systems of morality that don't have anything to do with God and don't need God. And there's good evolutionary evidence for how morals develop in all social species, and human beings just happen to be very sophisticated in it. You know, even though we have all this stuff and we give an answer to this, well, you still can't have it. And I had one guy say, you got to get over the mental block of this. And I'm like, you got to get over the mental block of you needing God. You know, what are we doing? Trading blows here? We're trading insults? Come on. And I've noticed that while apologists aren't directly insulting, there's still this offhanded, they don't have morals, they're not really clear, they're not really rational, but there's no dealing with the actual arguments. There's no dealing with, you know, the actual thing of what, you know, atheists and people who are countering them are saying anymore. And it's a disturbing trend. It's a disturbing element to me of apologetics that we've moved. We've basically acquiesced to any kind of rational argument anymore. Between William Lane Craig saying lowering the epistemological bar, between him and Cameron going up against Carl Sagan and basically emotionally framing the argument against him with, you know, some snarky comments and calling it cringe, and, you know, like Cameron calls what Carl Sagan is doing cringe. How is it emotionally cringeworthy to respond to a question from an audience saying, what about God and religion? That's not cringy. That's a normal, everyday question. How is answering that question cringy? And they smile and they giggle about it. And it's like, dude, what is your problem? And, you know, and then you got Inspiring Philosophy jumping the shark saying, yeah, you know, it's not rational. Well, wait a minute. I thought your thing was about philosophy. That's not philosophy. That's religion. Okay, that's jumping the shark. You got this kid on TMM. I don't even know his name. But I'm like, you're tuning me out, dude, because you're trying to prove the Bible of the Bible, because intuitively it shows the truth. And it's a disturbing thing. And it's why presuppositionalism is so popular today. And the reason presuppositionalism is so popular is it's intuitive. Okay? You know, we're going to have these sacred beliefs that we're going to put in a box, and we're never going to let any criticism change our beliefs on these things. It's a perfect thing for anybody who's religious, who wants to put a fence around their belief system and never have a challenge. Well, you're challenging that part of my presuppositionalism that I'll never give up. And that's the problem with presuppositionalism. I didn't buy it when I was a theist because I realized that I was being I'm not going to accuse any of you people that are presuppositionalists as cowards, but I knew that when I was kind of playing around with presuppositionalism, if I accepted it, I was being a coward because I wasn't allowing my personal beliefs, my central core beliefs, to be challenged. And if something is true, you don't, you know, the thing about my evidential standards video was I can apply those evidential standards to my atheism, you know, my non-belief in God. And, you know, there's nothing to prove or disprove. But you guys make all these claims. What are you afraid of? You know, because I think what apologists are doing is they're tapping into the fear that maybe my faith isn't all that rational. And so you're invoking the fear. Well, it doesn't matter if it's rational or not. You know for yourself it's right. You have the truth. And these people are just wrong. And so it's an ego play to overcome the fear that you might be wrong. I mean, what are you afraid of? Okay? What are you afraid of taking your claims and giving evidential standards to? What's wrong there? You know, I, as a theist, was never afraid, you know, and it goes back to my upbringing. I had a Sunday school teacher when I was a teenager basically say, you know, the Bible has no fear. Should, or at least probably the way she would put it now, but she said, the Bible really should not have any fear of scrutiny. Because if it is the truth, no matter what standard you put to it, it should come up with the truth, if it is the truth. And that stuck with me. And when I began to apply various standards of evidence to this, it doesn't work. And that's not an appeal to intuition. It's not an appeal to intuition at all. And it begins to bother the absolute hell out of me these days when I watch apologists do this shit. The presuppositionalism, it's a crappy way to look at the world. To sit there and say, because I intuitively believe these certain beliefs, I'm not going to give them up. No matter what evidential standards you put in front of me that show that these aren't really good presuppositions, it doesn't matter, I'm going to keep them. And it doesn't matter that I'm using the Bible to defend the Bible because the Bible is intuitively true. And it doesn't matter, that Carl Sagan was a great communicator and he's trying to explain to his audience very thoroughly and he's just answering a question from the audience, but I'm going to call his answer cringy and smile and giggle about it and poison the well against him. So any theist who goes and actually listens to Carl Sagan and says, well, this guy's, he's just not really that good of a communicator as much as people say he is. And, he's kind of cringy with his response here because I heard Cameron and William Lane Craig say so. Okay? A rationality rule says, that I can intuitively grasp that the gospel is true, even though it doesn't make a lick of sense. This is what's going on in apologetics. Come on, Christians. Come on, theists. These are your heroes. And they're making an appeal to intuition. Doesn't that tell you something? Now, I think there's a reason for this. I think apologists realize they're losing. Okay? Because despite their best efforts, the nuns in this country are growing. The nuns in the Western world have been growing for a long time, despite the efforts of apologists. I think they know they're losing the ideological game. And they have and now they're not even trying, like William Lane Craig, they're not trying to meet even burdens of proof. They're not going to lower that epistemological bar. They're not even doing it anymore. What are they doing? Well, they're appealing to intuition. And the only person that works on is people that already believe. They're not trying to convince me as an atheist anymore that I'm wrong. They're not even trying. Okay, what are they doing? A lot of you in the comments, you're not even trying anymore. You're not even trying to prove me wrong. You're not laying out an ordered argument of why I'm wrong. I haven't seen it yet. You're just saying, oh, that's weak sauce arguments. Oh, those arguments are weak. Prove they're weak. Put the epistemological standard up to it, to whatever you believe, and see if it holds up. I've got my standards of evidence laid out for you. Meet the evidential standards. You're basically saying by its weak arguments and all this other stuff that you don't have the ability to do that. Or you can't. And so you run and you hide. Okay? And, the one thing I can say as an atheist who follows the 9 Noble Virtues and Stoicism, I got on this. I'm far more courageous because I will take anything I say, and if somebody corrects me, I'll gladly accept the correction. But you guys, man, some atheist corrects you on your understanding of atheism or understanding of science or understanding of evidential standards, and you run to the hills. Run to the hills. Run for your life. And, it's disturbing to me because now I know what you're doing. You're framing the arguments emotionally. You're appealing to intuition because you know that emotional appeals are more effective than rational ones. Okay? Passion rules reason. And if you can ignite the passions of believers, they'll continue to believe despite the fact that their beliefs are nonsense. And it angers me a little bit. I try to be a very patient, and I know I can't do anything about your attitude. As a Stoic, I accept the things I can't do anything about. And I can't accept, I can't do anything about the individual attitudes of apologists or whatever towards atheists. I can't do a thing about that. But what I can do is influence people. And I'm going to sit here and say, if you think that this is good apologetics, you have a problem. Okay, because you're running. You're not facing evidential standards anymore. I mean, come on, man. I'm literally, this week, I do, the 42 bears, the 42 kids killed by the two bears at Elisha's command by the power of God. And everybody that is a theist is trying to defend this story, you know, from, well, it's not all that important that somebody dies. It's the second death that's important. Well, yeah, but God just sent these people in front of his throne and he's going to condemn them because they were sinners. So they're going to face the second death and end up in the pit. He killed them twice. Congratulations. The defense was, it's self-defense. How's it self-defense? These kids, there's nothing in the text that says that these people attacked these kids. These kids attacked Elisha. Elisha just got pissed off because they were calling him Baldy. Okay? I mean, well, it wasn't really God, it was Elisha. It's God using God's power that God gave him to do this. Please, quit eisegeting the text. I mean, if I was still a theist and a Bible professor, I'd look at all your interpretations, go quit eisegeting the text. It says what it says. Justify what it says. And it's hilarious. And it's this emotional connection you have to your faith. And the apologists are just reinforcing it. They're not even trying anymore. I mean, I'm looking at these things, and they're not even trying anymore. They're just emotionally appealing to you. Okay, that you have the truth, and it's just, it's a stumbling block to the Jews, and it's foolishness to the Greeks. You guys have the truth. Don't let these people fool you. They don't know what they're talking about. It's poisoning the well as a way of protecting your precious faith because you have an emotional connection to it. And they're appealing to your ego because they don't have a way to appeal to your reason anymore. They don't have a way to meet evidential standards anymore, and they know it. They're basically admitting it with this tone these days. And I'm going to be honest, it's starting to piss me off. It really is. Because I keep hoping for better. I really do. I'm one of those optimistic people in my heart, despite all the things that the world does. But I am becoming so painfully aware of what lengths and depths apologists will go to keep you in the faith. They're not trying to convince me anymore. If they were trying to convince me, they would listen to my objections respectfully, and they would try to meet my objections. But they don't do that. And they certainly wouldn't call me a name or say my arguments are weak or whatever. They would demonstrate that. And then I would come to the conclusion that they were weak. But the fact that you have to tell me they're weak, basically insulting my ability to reason, and then give some half ad hoc reason that's based on your intuition, and that's all you got, that's a problem. And apologetics has gotten worse. And the only place where faith survives is like in Islamic countries where you don't have a choice. Okay? When you can tell a religion's really bad when most of the time people don't want to give you a choice about it. Okay, where it's a state religion. When something's a state religion, you automatically have to be skeptical about it. Because if it's so damn true, people would just flock to it and you wouldn't have to force it by government power. Okay? You wouldn't have to do that. People in their freedom would choose it because it's the truth. It's just hilarious to me that we're going to this route of appealing to people's emotion, framing the narrative, and it's because you're scared. It's straight up because you're scared, and I can see it. Okay? You're scared because here in the United States, American Christianity is losing, and they know it. The only place where they're holding the line is fundamentalism. Every other part of Christianity is dying. Okay, the churches are getting smaller. I know, I saw it in my own church. There's a new youth movement coming in, but it's too small so far. And that's what's worrying to me. To those of us that are atheists, this is the worry for me. Because they're going to start appealing to emotion. They're going to be a little bit more persuasive in certain aspects. And that bothers the hell out of me. Because the only thing we can do to defend that is say it's not rational. And rationality is a superior way to do things. And it's like, what do we do as atheists at this point? I'm speaking to the people in the room because I want some comments. I want some suggestions. What do we do now? Because the apologists have clearly jumped the shark and they're trying to justify attaining of truth by intuition. That's bottom line what it is. Okay, I'm probably oversimplifying just a bit, but I'm trying to make a point here. That's what they're doing, my fellow atheists, my fellow apes, my fellow heathens. That's what they're doing. They're making this emotional appeal to intuition as proof of truth. And that's going to be somewhat effective. What do we do about it? Okay, I think this is, when people, I've had a comment this week, I think this is an oversaturated market. And it's like, well, then how come I'm growing so much? No, I don't think it's an oversaturated market. We need more voices. We need more people on YouTube because of this nonsense. Okay? And, people, have commented on me making money, and I did that about last week. But it's like, I did this for free for 4 years because I felt it needed to be done. I did videos to tell my story and tell why I don't believe for 4 years before I even got to this level of success. And I would do it again, okay, because it needs to be done. Because we have people out there that think intuition leads to truth, and it doesn't. Okay, it never has and never will. Okay, every once in a while somebody gets something right, but it's a crapshoot. Okay, science gives me predictable results. Using historical evidence standards, when I look at a piece of historical evidence, gets me predictable results. Taking something to a court of law gets me predictable results. When I look at the Bible and realize that the morality of God is subjective because it's might makes right, because it's a subjective rule, because then God can change his mind about the rules, violate them himself, and all that story did with Elijah and the 42 kids is illustrate that. And I can so value, and then, I know that yesterday, when this video drops, it'll be yesterday that my video about the question about God and abortion drops. And I'm demonstrating to you that either God doesn't exist and doesn't give a crap, and I'm giving you rational reasons of why I don't believe. And you come back at me, well, no, truth is attained by intuition. I'm going to tell you that that's a load of crap, okay? And it tells me that you don't have any answers anymore. You're running out of answers and you don't know what to do. Because if you weren't afraid of the truth, if you really felt what you had as truth, it could meet any evidential standard. But the fact that you dismiss evidential standards as weak arguments, when they're not arguments anyway, but that they're weak, tells me that you're afraid of them. And that bothers me. Because I think more and more, Mark Twain's statement that it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they're fooled is true. Because when you're fooled, you're emotionally attached to it. You have the sunk cost fallacy. You have all this stuff that's an emotional appeal, wanting to see your family members again in heaven, wanting to live a long time, being afraid of death, on and on, having some meaning and purpose in your life, and you don't want to do the hard work of figuring out what it is for yourself. So you let somebody else define it for you. You want to keep the emotional attachment to all that. And so these apologists appeal to intuition, appeal to you. And it bothers me as an atheist because I know how persuasive that can be. And is it a tactic that'll work, that'll bring about another great awakening in the United States? Where rationality is discarded and we go after this nonsense. It does disturb me. Okay, it's disturbing. And the fact that you apologists, you're watching these apologists do it should be good evidence to you that you need to really rethink your position. Because, right now you're making my job easy. Because as long as people keep appealing to intuition, it's easy to debunk. Okay, it's easy to go against. Okay, so keep doing it. But at the same time, the emotional appeal to the masses bothers me of this. So I guess we'll see where we're at. Well, that's my rant soapbox dealing with some of the comments this week, all wrapped up in one tight little package. So hopefully some of the comments will be interesting. So, theists, why? Why are you accepting appeals to intuition? Okay, why are you doing this now? And atheists, appeals to intuition are a little bit more effective and it's persuasive. What do we do about that? I think we need more channels and more voices. And we need to be more outspoken than we've been in the past. But, I'd be interested to hear what you think. Thanks everybody for every like, share, and subscribe. The channel's really growing. By the time this video drops, I'm assuming that we'll have passed 2.5K, one of my goals. So thank you very much for that. That means we'll probably be moving on to the goal of 5,000 subscribers. I'll, of course, stop at every, K, 3K, 4K, and so on and so forth. I continue to have the desire to grow the channel and be an effective voice to influence people, to normalize atheism, to normalize deconversion, and, make it so that we atheists aren't have bigoted behavior towards us like there is today. So that continues to be the goal of the channel. So thank you for your support because it helps me achieve that goal. As always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So you want to take all your time, your money, your opportunities and spend it in such a way that you benefit yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. And don't waste it on the trappings of religion and faith because they don't have any reasons. They just have intuition anymore, apparently. And you need to understand that how much of a waste of time that is, and it's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you next time.